2024. How's it going? Shit? Yeah, cool. Mine too. Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire came out. We won some Olympic medals. Me, personally. Mac is here. And then Mac went on holidays, and then Mac wasn't here for a bit, but then he came back. And in the interim, we've had our first glimpse at Russell Davies 2 in its prime. 1 year of shooty, and almost 50 minutes of him on screen. Yeah, TV-wise, I don't think this is going to be my decade for the program, but that's okay, because what does this channel always say? Yeah, I'm the guy who pushes the expanded media on you. So regardless of medium, regardless of canonicity, these are just the 10 greatest Doctor Who stories I've experienced this year. At the midpoint, because why not? Let's get a new thing going. Slow Beasts. The 8th Doctor, Helen and Liv. A few years ago, I was being an idiot, I was being a little idiot boy, and said that they are the best TARDIS team. If you like monotone line readings from bored actors. And listen, right, I'm not saying there's no truth in that, but I very earnestly come to the realization that these three, they are really, actually, just the best TARDIS team, period. I have a new favourite. And after surviving the 2020 pandemic, they've just gone from strength to strength. This year it was the box set Echoes. My favourite story on the set, Slow Beasts. This is a Big Finish story that has been out 5 months, and I've listened to it about 5 times. And it gets #1 placing on this list because it's kind of cheating. Like, it's so up my street that it feels like it's cheating. Slow Beasts offers us some pally TARDIS tourism, to the same effect as they're just travelling, hanging out in City of Death or Midnights. These days, I love stories that put the travel into time travel. The 3 of them have gone sightseeing in a nice place. If they uncover a mystery whilst they're in the thick of it, sure, so be it, but it's not a dark Star Cruiser. They didn't go looking for a fight, the Star Trek style mystery came to them. It set such a unique, nice tempo, a good tone. And that's not even to mention the flawless dialogue. Give me another year with this and I will be quoting the damn thing. I think letting these 3 in particular let their hair down has led to some of the greatest ever work from Big Finish. There's something about this stiff, upper-lipped trio of adults that brings a different kind of Doctor Who story to the table. Like, you can't do stereotypes when this gang are around. You can't just fall back on Doctor Who tropes because they're too efficient. These 3 are a unit, and they get stuff done. So in the same way I liked Capaldi because it sidestepped so much of the old, I think these 3 forced Doctor Who into new territory as well. The Doctor's worried that Helen and Liv can't get amazed anymore. They've seen too much, they're desensitized, so he takes them to go visit the Slow Beasts. Giant titans on the horizon, who live such grand lifespans, it takes them a week to blink. Boom, tourist destination. I was in Portugal this time last week, I almost died, that's totally irrelevant. And I saved this story specifically for the flight home, because I knew it would keep that holiday spirit alive, just 45 minutes more. I think it's so evocative, that's really why it's up here. It's got big, crazy visuals that scream out, even if it's only an audio piece. But inside is an understated, maybe slightly predictable, sci-fi mystery waiting to be solved. Listen, there's new dialogue, there's new kinds of threats, there's new solutions, and new resolutions. Doctor Who is still alive, its heart is pumping. Titan Comics, it's good to have you back. We almost thought we lost you there, buddy. Don't scare us like that again. Doctor Who comics mean a lot to me. I think it's where Doctor Who lives, in my head. It's just like the perfect medium for him. So it's been a real roller coaster seeing Titan Comics flop back from the pandemic, with the returning character dartboard, spelling errors, traced arts, and just a massive decline in their output. It almost feels like they didn't release anything for a few years there, but new series, new cast, great big issue 1 energy. They're back, and the story is really, really good so far. It's a 4-part Dan Watters and Kelsey Ramsey comic to introduce 15 and rejuvenate Titan Comics, frankly. And if all that comes of the Whoniverse is an extra little push to people like Titan Comics, it will have been a success to me. The Doctor takes Ruby to the last shopping centre ever, after 99% of the planet evacuated for the stars. What held back these happy shoppers, the ones who are taking refuge on a ruined, doomed Earth? I don't know, but there's someone who's ready to capitalise on those fears, and wants to try the taste of a Time Lord's scream. Crazy premise, I don't get how you come up with something like that. And 2 issues in, it's already proving itself. This art is gorgeous, please don't be a one and done. We beg. And whilst you're at it, bring back Gabby and Sutek's son, Nubis. He's never been more relevant. We miss them. I pray this isn't another era where the comics and books do the TARDIS team better than on telly. But hey, okay, let's talk about that telly. We should probably get round to the brand new series of Doctor Who eventually, right? I'm not completely a hater, I went into every episode as usual wanting to be entertained. Often I was. There's some really great stories in there, I would dub most of them guilty pleasures. You can say a lot about Boom, you can say a lot about Rogue, but honestly if I had to pick my favourite of the year, I think I'll go against character and say the Devil's Chord. Listen, I know it's an alcohol watch. It's one to watch with friends. Then suddenly it all makes sense. That is a coping mechanism and a medicine that I do not recommend, and also does not work for the other episodes after this episode. I've tried. I might be misattributing this quote, but I think it was Phil Collinson that said, "Every single episode has a bigger budget than a whole series that we would have done in 2008. I think, wow, that's fucking crazy, Phil. Can that be true? But also, hey, Devil's Chord is the first time on screen that I can actually see that. This story feels big, it's very pretty. No expense spared, no apologies given. The Devil's Chord is Russell T Davies beating to the sound of his own drum. It's actually a big vision on screen, not just swaggering around like it's got one. Most of his other scripts this year were tepid audience tag or lore bombing, but this is the sort of messy Russell that I actually expected. It really is just fun. A bit of fun. And when so many episodes this year have felt, I don't know, patronising? Kind of like resentful maybe? I think it's good to see that Russell's having a laugh. And that he's back on the nose powder. I roll my eyes when we go to Pyramids of Mars for a scene, but aside from that, it is a whole new show for 45 minutes. It's in your face, but it's not forced in a way that I think most of his stories this season are. Here, and Church on Ruby Road, I buy it. Just for those 2 episodes, I buy it from Russell. I buy the fresh breath of air. It's actually fun, and not in the laboured way the rest of the season is. And all of this without mentioning Jinx Monsoon, who surprisingly gives us our best new villain in forever. Even though it's such a big performance, I think it is one of the best we've had in the show. I'm not kidding. There's some real craft to the scary, desperate nastiness in Maestro's line reads. Taking control of the TARDIS, taking control of the opening credits. This shit, it's wonderful. Hey, this episode does some real stinky stuff. I don't like everything it tries to accomplish. I've seen music battles done in fiction. This is a finale of nothing again. Not to mention that we actually cheat when it comes to the Ruby Sunday mystery. Oh, the Beatles, don't get me started. Good thing it's not a Beatles episode, because that approach to a celebrity historical, it's prehistoric. Ultimately, it marketed itself as the big Beatles episode that can't have Beatles music in it. Actually, screw it, it's the music episode that can't have music in it. That final music number is great on paper, but Murray Gold delivered a real stinker. But I was too busy just kind of smiling. The song sucks shit, don't get me wrong, but I really like that we can have like a state of play, little victory ending for an episode. When you defeat one of the Pantheon, you get a bit of playtime at the end, to break the rules and do whatever you want. And if I pretended like that wasn't Russell's vision for the entire season, I can enjoy the Devil's Chord in isolation. Just fine. Oh, woo, woo, woo. Man, what the fuck was this false advertising? There isn't a single werewolf in Operation Werewolf. That's just what the operation's called. Picture my goofy ass at the end of a long day being like, wow, this is great. Well, I wonder when the werewolves are gonna show up. Sam, genre fiction has addled your brain. So yeah, no werewolves, no visuals, no Patrick Troughton, but this second Doctor story is class. It's a pure historical with some crazy Nazi sci-fi tech thrown in. It feels right, and very TV annual to have the second Doctor sneaking around, protecting Britain from the Germans. But here, the natural effects and the conversations that come from the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe being in the wrong time period, as Nazis are learning the time travel lingo, is plenty to fill up 6 parts. I threw this on a whim. I really wasn't expecting anything. It had been a very long time since I heard a Big Finish. But hey, it's all here. David Troughton has got the second Doctor to a T. Audibly, Fraser Hines hasn't aged a day. This is a really good story, and it's mostly base hopping, going from trench to trench. There's a firing squad. It kinda sounds like, Sam, that you secretly like the war games. Yeah, hey, this story is quite a bit of war games. It's got a lot of that DNA. I guess I wonder, why was this one so fun? Jamie meets an English McCrimmon. Aye, from the future. Crazy Nazi scientists have discovered teleportation. There's a conspiracy in Westminster. I think it's proof that the restrained war camp hopping isn't the deal breaker for me when it comes to war games. It's not just the genre, the type of story it is. Because Operation Werewolf doesn't have 1 ounce of fat on it. There's not a single extraneous story loop in sight. It's really great at the basics, and I think this one is the sleeper hit of the year. Now, let's send it to the boys. This is the illustrious Josh Carr, discussing the 11th Doctor Chronicles, which just finished this year.
Hello you lovely lot, I'm Josh, and I think I've been assigned the easiest task of this video, which is basically to wax lyrical about one of the greatest runs of Doctor Who ever made. I am of course talking about the recent 11th Doctor Chronicles from Big Finish, starring Jacob Dubman as the 11th Doctor and Safia Ingar as original new companion Valerie Lockwood. Earlier this year, the run culminated with the Victory of the Doctor box set, a mad, sprawling 4-episode epic to cap off this glorious series that's been showrun wonderfully by Alfie Shaw. You might be tempted to be a bit sniffy about this run and to disregard it because it doesn't have Matt Smith in the lead, or because some of the episodes may be written by people you haven't heard from before. I've previously compared this run to an old anecdote that while Disney's A team of animators were busy working on Pocahontas, they gave the B team a project to work on, one they weren't expecting to be a massive hit, nothing too special, but the film the B team made ended up being The Lion King. So this set starts off with a lovely, surreal, low-key story called Didn't You Kill My Mother, which, while great in its own right, acts primarily to move the final chess pieces in the story arc to their correct places in time for an immense 3-part finale. The first part of that, Daleks Victorious, is a classic Dalek invasion epic, finally paying off the Dalek paradigm that was set up 14 years earlier in the show. And God, are the Daleks great here. They're sassy, they're funny, they're terrifying, they're intimidating. It also has an emotional, gut-wrenching final 10 minutes, especially due to the phenomenal performances from the leads. Next up is The Last Stand of Miss Valerie Lockwood, the jewel in the crown of this set for me. It takes the timey-wimey nature of the Moffat era and dials it up to 11, pardon the pun. Safia is unreal in this, an all-time Big Finish performance. I'd go as far as to say an all-time companion performance across any format. It pulls threads from the most unexpected corners of the series' long arc and ties them together in the neatest bow, and ends with a Bad Wolf cliffhanger level speech from Jacob Dubman. Victory of the Doctor, the finale, allows this wonderful run to go out with a bang and with a smile. All that legwork earlier on means that this doesn't buckle under the weight of what comes before. It holds it high above its head and basically just says, yeah, we fucking did that. Strikes the perfect balance of maintaining its threat, maintaining the stakes that have been set up across this massive, sprawling story, but also injecting a humour and a silliness and a hooiness, I don't know if that's a word, that isn't necessarily present in the earlier stories, not to their detriment. It's just they are very dark, very gritty stories, the first two parts of this three-part finale. And this really dials up just a lot of humour and a lot of silliness. And the last 10 minutes are just the perfect end to a near-perfect run. I cried. A lot. One thing I will say, like I mentioned earlier, I've seen like someone even earlier today tweeted me and was like, yeah, you know, I'm not sure about whether to do this because Smith's not doing it, it's Dudman, you know, I'm never really sure about impressionists. It's so much more than an impression with Dudman. I would genuinely go as far as to say that he is as much the 11th Doctor to me now as Matt Smith is. I think it's that definitive a performance, and he's amazing throughout all of the box sets, all of these 11th Doctor Chronicles box sets, but this one especially, you just get the full range of the 11th Doctor, all from Dudman. Honestly, I could rabbit on about this run all day, and I don't want to delve into spoiler territory, but if you have the chance to purchase a few Big Finish box sets, maybe you've saved up, maybe you're getting some for Christmas, I'd implore you to take the plunge and pick the 11th Doctor Chronicles. Go from Geronimo all the way through to Victory of the Doctor. Don't miss out at Broken Hearts, because Broken Hearts is another incredible story in this run. Do try and pick it up if you can, because I can assure you, you won't regret it.
I seriously have to echo everything Josh said. In my friendship circle, I think there's now 4 of us who are converted into saying that it's the best run of Doctor Who in recent years. And by recent years, I might mean 20 years. Thank you to the illustrious Josh Carr. Hey, so I gave the next slot to, yeah, kind of illustrious. Yeah, he's illustrious. Jack Alexander from the Awful Lot of Running podcast. What story have you brought to the class, Jack?
I'm not doing it, Sam. You said I could talk about Victory of the Doctor. I am the 11th Doctor Chronicles fan. I've interviewed Dan Fisher twice on the podcast. Who do you think found out that the D in Valerie D. Lockwood was a One Piece reference? It's fine. Let's see what else I've got lying around here. What's this? Tales of the TARDIS, Periods Modes of Mars. Oh God, no. Okay, these will do. These are fine. Like many, when I learned that Russell was writing all of season 1 except for 2 episodes, and one of those 2 remaining episodes was being written by a returning writer, I was left wanting, like many. True writers made their Doctor Who debut, giving us the breath of fresh air that we'd wanted. Kate Herron and Bryony Redman. Loki fame, something that Russell publicly slandered. You think that was an awkward pitch meeting? Anyway, these 2 writers, who weren't 2 old white men over the age of 50, gave us arguably the most original and engaging romance we've had in the show since... nice try, not touching that. In Rogue, yes, there's clear allusion to the Netflix hit show Bridgerton. They straight up say it. They have the choreographer, the soundtrack, and I for one was interested to see whether the story would translate well to prose. Spoilers, it does! I read the Target novel in exactly 1 sitting as I travelled up to London for the Doctor Who proms. Yes, the original story transfers well. You get a compelling prequel and epilogue for Rogue. Beyond that, what's in the show, you'll learn exactly who he's lost, what that relationship was, and why he's initially very closed off when interacting with the Doctor. But you do also learn that they both form an almost instantaneous connection with each other, with a real emotional depth. There is a touch of love at first sight, and the feeling that their relationship... they're equals in it. It's an emotionally mature story, and it makes the final twist, Rogue sacrificing himself to save Ruby, all the more tragic. Speaking of Ruby, she feels far more like a presence in the story here. Chapters flip back and forth between the 2 members of the TARDIS team, meaning that the Doctor and Ruby have equal agency. And I know Rogue has detractors, I get you. but have you never met someone in your life who out of nowhere sends your heart aflutter? Someone you meet on a night out who just gets your vibe? Someone you feel like you know inside and out who you've just met? And have you never experienced love at first sight story before? Because that's a real trope of the period Rincy tale Rogue is set in. And the story covers all those bases: enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, forbidden romance, love at first sight. Looking at next year's season 2, I really hope more notes are taken from the success of Rogue and less from the failures of Empire of Death.
Ha ha ha. What lovely boys. My beloved kindred boys. Also, Ben sent one in.
Now, for the best piece of storytelling to come under the words Who and Doctor this year. Come on, guys. I mean, it's good. Come on. Now, there may be some naysayers out there. Some might say it has politics worthy of years and years, and that nothing Ruby did made any sense, and there's not actually that much interiority to it, Ben. All of this has been unwantedly brought to my attention, so I did the grown-up thing and bought a creepy mask. The best thing about it is that it hides all of the visible emotions when your friends disagree with your pet theory about an episode of children's television. Stop saying The Curse of Clyde Langer is better, or you're out of the group chat. Just stop it!
What the fuck was that? God, I need to check in on my friends more.
Are you my mummy? That's what Ruby kept saying all season.
Death World. Please forgive the amount of Big Finish in this list. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. I just haven't gotten round to the shooty books yet. They look nice. Go easy on me. I still haven't done Doomsday yet. I'm the reason that Doom died. Death World is one of those lost Pertwee stories that never got made because they went ahead and made the 3 Doctors instead. Now we have to over-mythologize everything, so every half idea written onto a napkin is now a full-length Big Finish audio drama. But this one, I'm being callous. This one was a finished script, I believe, and it's great. I believe the only reason they didn't go ahead with it back in the day was because of William Hartnell's diminishing health. Which is tragic, because this would have been such a proactive use of the First Doctor. Of everyone, really. The Madam President of Gallifrey is playing a game of chess with Death himself. But not doggy death, real death. The Grim Reaper. 7th Seal Me In. This is a crazy, high-concept event Doctor Who story. I don't quite know how they would have made it back in the day. I think they've definitely exaggerated the scale and scope of it, because Doctors 1, 2 and 3, who have all cheated death, are drawn into Death World, the Grim Reaper's domain, where he subjects them to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the 7 deadly sins, war zones of soldiers under his command, as 3 Doctors, the Brigadier, Joe and Jamie, are all tested, taken deep out of their comfort zone. It kind of feels like Doctor Who the movie. If they made a Doctor Who the movie in the 70s, well, it'd be called Scratchman, but this is kind of strikingly similar, even down to the hell. I think John Dorney cooked up something really special here. The plot is a little bit interchangeable, quite easily shrugged off. They're just all in different places, doing little Death Zone type antics. It's an episode you go to for the pairings. The First Doctor and the Brigadier works like a charm. Jamie flirting with Joe, and more of that 2 and 3 rivalry. Maybe a bit too much of the dialogue is filled with the Doctors roasting each other. Sand shoes and Grandad, hobo and a clown. But I'd be remiss to not comment on just how funny Death World is. It does pull off those punchlines very, very frequently. And I think that comes down to the cast. These 3 Doctor actors are doing God's work, I think. I love that it's Big Finish's time in the sun with these 3 Doctors. Troughton, Treloar and Noonan, they give them such personality. Audible laughs come from just their delivery on the lines alone. Things that on paper I don't think seem that funny, or interesting, or particularly dramatic. There's a lot of drama in Death World. Get ready to say goodbye to the 1st, 2nd and the 3rd Doctors in very convincing, realistic death scenes. Goodbyes to these characters. And on top of all of it, hordes of zombies, raging cyclops. There's a good thematic weight to it as well. It's an anniversary special and we're talking about Doctor Who and death, and challenging characters who think they have overcome death. In some ways, it makes the Three Doctors look like absolute shit, but I grew up on the Three Doctors, so to have an alt-universe version of it out there is a great second joy. It's a real, oh boy, 2 cakes situation. I think a good anniversary special comes down to good crossovers and good character work, and this has both in spades. It's really fun to enjoy a multi-Doctor story again, one of the more celebratory fan wank ones that's just for a bit of fun. They don't all have to be twice upon a time, Sam. Yeah, it made me feel like an 11-year-old watching the Three Doctors again. Alright, what do you want from me? Nostalgia! It works every now and then. I'm a big goo goo gaga baby. You are not immune to Doctor Who propaganda. Tell you what was also a giant big surprise. I can enjoy the Celestial Toymaker now. There is a Brian Hale script I didn't think I would ever get to have fun with. Listen, I've been saying for the longest time, we've got to get more creative with these animations. I do not care about on-set shooting order, I do not care about shot lists, I do not care about being faithful to the original televised program. Because nobody cared about the Celestial Toymaker's original transmission, nobody wanted to be involved in the production of it. So, it's carte blanche. This isn't my favourite animation style, far from it really, but the amount of just direction, lighting, there's some imagination and shot composition, and we don't always get this. These are not givens. The size of this story is now immeasurable, it's much less lame and dinky, which was really the main problem with Celestial Toymaker. I think it's mad that Russell was like, people should watch the Celestial Toymaker. No, it has the M word in it. The finale is hopscotch, Russell. But all the loud, abrasive cartoon characters you meet in that fuzzy audio reconstruction that I had to listen to, why did I do that? The worst part of the story, them, has now become the best parts. In every episode, when we meet more of the Toymaker's minions, it's a new art style. They look like they're made out of a different texture, and so suddenly, them being cartoon characters, it's best rectified by making them cartoon characters. Suddenly the voices work, the characters are sweet and likeable, and now we understand where Dodo's coming from behalf of the story. Yeah, I really didn't see this one coming. There's something really jaw-dropping on screen in every part, including one, I think, totally unique sequence where someone just took a tab of acid, as was the trend at the time. Yeah, this is a bang-up job. More of this, please. And lastly, I want to talk about a story that you have not read, because you are not allowed to read it. You're not allowed to listen to it yet. It's not out yet. So Josh Carr, whose voice you heard earlier, he's putting together his own fan series, and he's been writing away, tip-tapping on that typewriter for years and years at this point, because there is a crazy amount of crafts and talented fans just pouring into this series. I'm so excited to see what comes of it, but I did get to read the first script, The Crooked House. And yeah, it's one of the best Doctor Who stories I've read this year. If you've been watching some of our stuff lately, you might even know his sensibilities as a writer already. His Doctor Who is a late-stage Doctor Who. It's an ultra-political, quite jaded, but rebellious series, with a Doctor who is in retirement, for realsies, hasn't taken a break off time travelling, isn't having a Victorian strop. The Doctor, he's legitimately a bit too old for this shit. I have such a soft spot for grandfatherly figures, it's kind of why I'm into Doctor Who in the first place, and Josh has cut straight to the heart of that, with a really unique dynamic for the Doctor and new companions. A Doctor who is, more than rusty, kind of like not cut out for it anymore. I'm reading it, and after a couple edits, I realised I'm reading a version of the show that I have never seen before. There's something really fun about the car doctor, I think we call his mechanics, in that he seems determined to jump to the point. He's old, he's tired, he wants to cut to the chase and get to the end of the story as soon as possible so he can go back to his nap. Back to his book! And you see that reflected in the story. It takes until the second act for new companions Violet and Billy to even talk him into becoming an active participant. And the first thing he does then is follow the coordinates and fly straight to the enemy base, catching them all unawares. The Doctor just pops out his head and is like, oh, the third act, right, time machine. And let me just tell you, you won't believe whose evil lair it is that the Doctor has rocked up in. One hell of a fun cliffhanger. Beautiful, beautiful schlock, I have missed you. It's another funny one, so that probably helps, but it's also very loud and angry, in that friendly, quaint way that only Doctor Who really seems to manage to find. Don't think that this is like cross-promotion, I don't think Josh even knows that I'm talking about this, but for a first-time writer, I was kind of envious that the plotting was as tight as it was. Its heart is in the right place, and I think that's a really impressive thing to do when you're talking about the political landscape this candidly. For a lot of people, another right-wing government is life or death, and we're following characters who are just bouncing on that line. Yeah, really good stuff. And that's the 10 best stories of Doctor Who so far this year, 2024. Don't take all your opinions from me, I've got weird taste, we know this. I spent about 2 years holding this 6th Doctor Frobisher and Sabalon Glitz book. I just finished it and it's crap. Hit me up in the comments because I know that I've missed stuff. I haven't seen everything. Who do you think I am? You think I'm Mr. TARDIS? You think I'm Tharies? I ain't Tharies. So yeah, let me know what you've been consuming. Send this video to Phil Collinson and have a really good week.